Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today, we're going to be talking about how AI has sometimes overpromised in fixed ops, what's finally changing, and what dealers should actually be paying attention to. And Ted, we have quite the conversation today.
Sarah, we really do. Dave Perry is with us. He's CEO of Blink AI Automotive, great friend of the Fixed Ops community. Dave, welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
As always, Ted and Sarah, it's great to be here with you. I always look forward to jumping on a call and seeing you at events. So great to be here.
Dave, you've been working really hard in this area, and there's a lot of buzz about AI, as there has been in the past. And I thought today that maybe Sarah and I would ask you a couple questions and have you clarify some things, and help the dealers who are coming next week to NADA as well, and those who are not coming, and maybe answer some of those questions for us.
I'll do my best, Ted. We're looking forward to it here. The NADA is, of course, the biggest conference in our industry, and we've already got a lot of our meeting schedules booked out. So we're anxious to see everybody that we can at the show, and hopefully we can answer some questions for some of the participants today too.
Well, Dave, to kick things off, I want to touch on something that we talked about briefly in the green room because it's something that a lot of our dealers that are listening today may not be thinking about. And this is the perfect time to really be aware of what's going on behind the scenes. But talking about workflows. So I'd love to get your perspective because, in our CRMs and our DMSs, there's a lot of behind the scenes code that maybe a dealer isn't completely thinking about every single day. But when AI gets layered on top of it, you're finding that there's some opportunities, especially when it's layered on top of broken workflows.
Yeah, exactly, Sarah. And you don't want to be too rough because a lot of these systems and processes that dealers have used for years, I mean, they work quite well, when you've got lots of humans and handoffs in the process that are well understood and easily, uh, adapted for each customer situation. What happens when you start trying to automate some of these functions, then it's you find that there's discontinuity in there, and that it may work well in terms of the booking process, but not in the follow through or the process of bringing the customers back in for the next event. And so, what we look at is that entire end to end conversation that exists, not for just booking the appointment, but booking the appointment, the reminders, the follow through. How was your visit today? And then getting them booked in for the next service, so we can make it very holistic. And there's a difference between automation and AI. Sometimes people look at those as the same thing, but they're not. In AI, you're allowing the AI system to make somewhat independent decisions. They're human guided, but it's very situational rather than just taking customers through rote steps, which then become monotonous, and it causes a lot of drop off in the process. So, our advice to dealers now is to start with the end in mind. What are you really trying to achieve? And then work backwards, and rather than looking at it as I'll buy this phone system and I'll buy this scheduler system and I'll buy this something else from different people, thinking if you buy even the best in class, that now you've achieved the best outcome. When in fact it's, focus on a platform where the conversation flows from, all the way through the whole customer experience, and provides that very simplified, easy to understand, easy to follow, and substantially, operationally efficient and profitable process that works for the dealer. So just think it's more about it rather than an AI issue. It's a design thinking issue. Think about the whole design before you start, building things. It's like you would when you're building a house. You wouldn't start with a foundation, then what do we want to put on that? You start with the architecture first. How do I want this to look and feel at the end? And then build up from there.
Dave, I saw a video recently of a large Honda dealership in North Carolina that Blink has been able to help. Congratulations to you on that. They were initially, before Blink came in, having trouble getting their service scheduler to work, and you really did wonders for that dealership. We saw the before and after. But Dave, tell us why appointment booking isn't. Why is that not enough?
Well, it's not enough because just in the previous question that we talked through there, that's just the start, right? It's just the beginning part, and in many ways, a lot of things, when you're looking at stats, I mean, the dealerships, like most companies, should be very data focused. What is working and what's not working? You recall, we've said this for years about marketing. We spend half of our marketing money gets wasted, but we don't know which half it is, right? What works and what doesn't work. And unless you have some metrics in play, so you can look at individual conversion rates for booking appointments, but if you get high no-show rates as a result of that, what have you really achieved, right? And so it's not just the booking, it's the follow through, it's the engagement after the fact, how was that experience? And so that it all flows back into a workflow that allows the best outcome, right? Where you achieve I want to, basically what you're looking for is you're wanting all your capacity to be consumed by the highest value,
Sure.
repair orders, right? That's how you achieve your business goals. But it also has to meet those of the customer as well. So there's always this balancing that occurs. And again, unless you got all the tools that play together throughout the engagement
Yeah.
process, then it's very difficult to tune that appropriately. So yeah, booking is great, but it's not just booking. That's just the beginning, Ted.
Dave, I want to pivot a little bit because, this is in this conversation around appointments and workflows. There's another component that is really important in this experience, not only for the customer, but also for the retention, service retention for the dealership. And it's really centered around telematics. We've seen, this evolve over the last 15, 20 years, but I understand that telematics stalled at one point, and why I want to get your perspective. Why is it finally delivering now?
Okay, well, I think that the way we've sort of framed it, Sarah, is that telematics as an operational technical system, it works great. Something happens inside the vehicle. It could be a number of things. There's lots of sensors. As we know, cars are highly automated. There's lots of technology. We even had delays in shipment a few years ago when you had chip shortages and things like that. That's because there are computers in there that are monitoring everything that's going on with that vehicle. A lot of those things only make it to the OEM because they're about what's the quality level, how's the performance level of the system, so that they can choose the right suppliers for parts and things like that, and that works perfectly well. What happens though is when you're looking at the alerts that flow all the way through the process down to the dealership, then the dealership gets the alerts. There's no problem. The alerts work fine, but it's how do you complete what we call that last mile? How do you turn that alert into a service visit and a happy customer? Okay. And that's where Blink comes in with our telematica. And we've deployed it, across, lots of OEMs, lots of dealerships. Customers love it because what it does, it provides AI and automation to be able to very quickly, go through all the alerts that comes into a dealership, sorts them so that you're not getting multiple alerts so that the customer experience is really respected.
Okay.
You're doing a notification on those, and we all know that text messages,
Mm.
there's a much higher degree of response to a text message, particularly when it's combined with that made it actionable with a link that you could book appointment automatically. And that's what Blink now delivers to the dealership. So we send the alerts to the specific customers in a very timely way and convert that into an appointment, within minutes. And so the customer's happy. They feel like the dealership's looking out for them. They're taking care of their vehicle. and the dealership didn't have to expend a lot of time and resources making phone calls or just waiting to see what happens. And so it's an unbelievable way to not only just bring more volume in, but what you're also doing is you're bringing in customers that maybe haven't been to your dealership for a while. You're recovering some of those customers that maybe abandoned the dealer for the local fix it shop down the street, and this gets them back in so that now they become a potential customer for the next vehicle when they're ready to buy a new one.
Dave, I think one of the big words we're hearing this year, and we heard it last year, is becoming more efficient, efficiency in fixed ops. You really help dealers with that. Blink has great experience. We're talking with Sarah about workflows and appointments and now telematics. You've really got it figured out. And a dealer without having that Blink, very hard to be as efficient with all of the knowledge and, as you said, the blueprint that you can help construct for that dealer from the top down.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, Ted. And yeah, we're working hard at it. I mean, we're not perfect. We got a really exciting roadmap. We'll be showing some new things
Okay.
at NADA that I think that will continue that. Uh, but we're very focused on fixed ops. We do have part of our solutions that drive customers back in to look at new vehicles and set up sales appointments while they're in visiting the dealership for their
Mhm.
service visit. Uh, but we look at the fixed ops department as really potentially that may be the core in the future, right? I mean, the exciting thing is the new vehicles, selling the new vehicles, but the internet has really democratized, pricing, availability, and the like, and so it's really hard to make a consistent, profitable part of just selling the cars, particularly when people are now keeping cars for a longer period of time. And so we look at how do we make the service kind of the centerpiece of the dealership. And of course, sales is still important, but providing
Mhm.
mobile services real easily is something that now is a new growing trend there, because how do you extend that dealer's capacity beyond just those fixed number of bays that they have by providing unique ways for customers to arrange different sorts of service operations. So we're going to be looking very closely at that. And the idea is that um, it will be the most consistent, profitable part of a dealership. Yes, the focus will always be on selling the new cars. It's the new thing. It's what brings new customers into the dealership. But we want the profits to primarily be driven by the the fixed ops part, and we do everything that we can to make that possible for our dealers to be able to accomplish.
And Dave, just to follow up on technology and fixed operations, that has really, really grown in the last couple of years. You're at the center of it. There's been a lot of dealer group consolidation, and that's changed some of the technology requirements. If you want to address maybe some of that as well.
Yeah, well, what we've seen over the last couple of years is that dealership groups have, they've acquired a lot of dealers, and the number of dealerships that are being acquired and
Mhm.
integrated into a group. But oftentimes they leave the software stack, they leave the technology stack alone, and sometimes that's for good reason. You got the staff that's already trained, you got a GM there that's running the business, but you lose a lot of capability. How do you do real comparisons between dealerships? How do you look at best practices across dealerships when they've each got different systems? And you may be comparing metrics that don't align. And so you're going to see a much bigger focus from Blink this year, because many more of our customers are the large dealer groups that see
Mhm.
what we can drive on an individual store basis, and say, how do we replicate that now across our stack? And since we're integrated with every DMS and most drive softwares and things like that, we can come pretty easily into a system, be agnostic to the existing system that they have in place, but provide that customer experience that's consistent across all of that dealership group stores, and then be able to provide some what I would call enterprise grade reporting capabilities and analytics that allows a comparative analysis there so that they get the best performance out of each store.
Dave, one of the other follow-up questions, just in thinking about all of these different components. I mean, this is incredible to hear how you're pulling all these threads together, for a dealership, so their customer has a more seamless experience. That's oftentimes been a big discussion,
Mm.
of course, here at the roundtable, but also in customer forums. Customers want a more unified experience between sales and service. So I'd love to get your perspective why unified engagement matters more than individual.
Well, I think that Sarah, the point is that customers love consistency, right? They
Mhm.
love to have predictability in the process that you have there. And when you know that, okay, if I'm going to have difficulty booking an appointment, then what kind of difficulty am I going to have when I get to the location, And if I've got questions about it, how do I get those questions answered, either during the booking process or post the booking process? And so, having that systems look at the construction of what these engagements look like, actually mapped out, and then scientifically, evaluated. It's like little simple things can make big differences in the outcome. One extra question during the booking process can drastically change, the number of customer, visits that you have there. The other thing that we see is if you measure everything kind of in a stovepipe, it gives you a really convoluted view of what's actually happening. Because what we're seeing is that customers may start a booking process on your website, not have their calendar available, and say, okay, I'll come back to that later. But they may come back via the phone, or they may come back, through a telematics alert. And
Okay.
unless all of these things are aware of all the other systems in process. So, for example, if we sent somebody a telematic alert and they didn't respond immediately by clicking the link and booking an appointment,
Okay.
when they call the store, our system, we know that that telematic alert was already sent. And so we know exactly what service that they need and that they're likely calling for that, and that we can add any other services to the booking process as well. And then if they were to check in later to check, what's the status of my vehicle, every component of the solution is aware of this common customer situation, and it doesn't have to continue to ask or quiz the customer to get that information. It's just you want it to work seamlessly. Just like you book the Uber appointment, you want the person's going to show up and they're going to drive you from point A to point B, and you get out. The tip will be later. I mean, it's very predictable. When you throw you know unusual or inconsistent things in the process, or require the customer to dial, call out to get a rental car or a lease car or whatever, then you're taking small cuts into the system that just make it less efficient for the dealership, but more importantly, long term, it's just not a positive experience for the customer.
We're speaking today to Dave Perry. He's the CEO of Blink AI Automotive, a company that is squarely in the fixed operations retail space, helping dealerships become more efficient by using technology and working with a large amount of dealers throughout the United States. Dave, I want to go back to something that you mentioned at the very beginning of our conversation with Sarah. You mentioned that automation and AI are not the same. Can I ask you to elaborate on that? You said both are necessary, but they are a bit different. If you want to just
Yeah,
clarify.
exactly. Yeah, it's because oftentimes you think about, I just want to do it faster.
Yeah.
But if the process is not well designed, you'll do bad things faster. You'll do damage to your dealership. You'll do damage to your relationships. People know when they're just being automated, when they just get constant, you know, text messages or whatever, basically to say the same thing. And you see that all the time where it's just automated outbound without much intelligence, not without much consideration that AI is now able to deliver about what is that customer's actual situation. Is the problem that we're bringing them in for, is it a significant problem, or is it just a maintenance problem? the the way you would communicate one versus the other is much different. If you shouldn't be driving your car, Ted, the system should tell you, hey, this is a significant problem. Suggest you bring it in immediately, versus, hey, send an email and say, here's a coupon for your next oil change. It's time for your oil change. Two much different, communications mechanisms. And that's why you need automation. You need things to flow. You need the computer, the system be able to handle these things because it can do it at scale that would be impossible for humans to get able to do in any sort of economic way. But the AI says that it's making decisions that are and delivering communications that are specific to that person's situation, and they're not just treated as a number, and they know they're just being spammed with text messages or emails or phone calls or anything like that.
Sarah, AI is changing the landscape of fixed operations, and dealers need to be paying attention to what's happening, especially upcoming next week at NADA. And Sarah, Blink AI is a big part of that.
They are, Ted and Dave Perry. So much exciting conversation today about all the different ways that dealerships can optimize their service drive, their service processes, and retain their customers. And Ted, this is going to continue to be an important topic into 2026.
Dave, can you share with us some of those big announcements? Give us a little hint of what's coming next week at NADA, or do we got to wait to come out and see you?
You're going to have to wait a little bit longer, Ted. I can just tell you it's going to be really exciting for us. We're going to have some new new product extension, and some new partnerships that we'll be announcing there. And we're going to have a lot of people out because we're expecting lots of demos. We've already got our schedule for customer visits to the booth is really, really high. And so we think it's just going to be a phenomenal show in general, particularly after last year's event in New Orleans. But there's so much, new technology there, not just with Blink. There's a lot of really interesting thing that's happening, with, just around the industry in total. But unless you're partnered with somebody like Blink that can integrate across all these solutions, then you're not optimizing for your dealership. And we want to talk to those dealers that look to really grow their dealership, be profitable, become a partner for a provider that is continuing to build out this platform. And you mentioned the Apple Tree guys earlier, and they came to us. They come to us very frequently, and we love this, to say, hey, I love what this is doing for this, but now I've got something else. Can you help us with that? And that will be one of the things that we'll be talking about in ADA too, because we work diligently to continue to look at new ways that we can service the dealers' business. I mean, we dealers are our life, and that's what we live and breathe each and every day. So come see us at NADA. Call us up, go to our website, book an appointment to see us, DM me if you want to. Email is, dperry@Blink AI. We'll get you set up. Love to visit with all the dealers there and just have a great show. Look forward to seeing you guys too.
Yep. If you're coming to NADA, everybody visit with Blink AI. Dave will be there. You'll likely see Sarah and I with Dave as well throughout the show. And take a look at what Blink AI has going. And if you're not coming to NADA, you can visit them on the web at blinkai.com. Dave's email is scrolling at the bottom of the screen, and Dave and Blink are very active on all over social media. And Dave, on behalf of Sarah and the Fixed Ops Roundtable, thank you for all that you do for the industry.
Oh, thank you guys. You guys are awesome, and we love working with you. I know the dealers love, the Roundtable and everything that you guys do too.
All right. Sarah, can't wait to see what's next.
Me too, Ted. This is going to be an exciting NADA and an exciting year ahead.
Everybody, Dave Perry from Blink AI Automotive here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.